Cleveland Guardians were up early on Sunday. They were not watching Team USA hockey win Olympic gold. They were signing a right-handed bat before they continued their undefeated 2026 Cactus League campaign. We'll talk about why Rhys Hoskins and what he adds next.
Tanner Bobby the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who had the more important win on Sunday? Was it Team USA Hockey or was it the Guardians who continued their undefeated Cactus League streak in 2026? I wonder. Well, on this show, what matters most is you, because you're here to talk Cleveland Guardians with us for the next half hour on Locked On Guardians, and we appreciate you being here. The only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast that covers your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. I think we'll get into a little bit of all those today. I'm Justin Lada, one of your two co-hosts, been here for the last 4 years and counting with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis, covering 19 years of the Guardians minor league system as a prospect writer and editor in the meantime as well.
God, don't make me feel old that we've both almost hit 20 years of doing this, Justin. Look at the professional that Justin is. I didn't tell him I was going to do that. I tried to disrupt him. He just kept going. Quite the professional. Thank you all for joining us.
And we're locked on.
As you mentioned, Justin is my friend. On top of that, we're co-workers, co-hosts here of Locked On Guardians. I've been here since Locked On expanded into baseball. For that, I was a national writer. It's Scouting 24/7, focused on prospects in the draft. I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you might get podcasts. For me, that's Pocket Casts. But hey, whatever works for you. And I want to give a big shout out to our everydayers, our insiders. No matter how you are taking it all in, no matter how you are doing it, as long as you are doing it every day, watching all the shorts, watching all the extra. Justin gave you an extra video this weekend, multiple extra videos. So, reward his hard work that he adds to the show all the time. It's mostly Justin with the extras, all of his hard work by watching it. That's all you have to do. Watch it. Be an everydayer. Watch all the stuff. We appreciate all of you out there who are doing that, and everyone who does tune in from time to time. We appreciate all of you, but extra shout out to those who go extra deep, our insiders and our I'm having a brain cramp. Our you know who you are,
Jeff. It's fine.
Everydayers. That's
let it go, Jeff. Just let it go. Yeah, you're all good. No, I don't have any kids, and I work and live in my basement, so it's very easy to produce videos whenever I generally feel like it, especially when it's nice when the Guardians give us a reason to do that. But we did have 10 minutes of bonus content on Saturday, getting ready for 2 spring training games. I can't believe I'm saying this before we get to Rhys Hoskins. I know we're already kind of off the rails here. I can't believe, I think two spring training games the first day back was a lot. Like following both games, trying to track them, following on like game day and StatCast. I was like, okay, 2 games the first day back was great, but also it was a lot. So I don't know if a split squad game day 1 is the best way to go. I'm sure the Guardians felt the same. But on today's show, we're not talking about my struggles keeping up with 2 games on Saturday. We're going to get into if there's anything to overreact to from those games and take away from those games, the first 3 spring training games of the year. Coming up, we will talk about Rhys Hoskins' fit on the Guardians roster. Now, first, we're debating Rhys Hoskins. Why now? And what he can give the Guardians this season. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future. Get in for a chance to win the trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I was not expecting. I was up early. I was watching the gold medal game, and I'm glad I was, because then Zach Meisel of The Athletic said Rhys Hoskins is in the Guardians locker room in Goodyear, and he has gear and a locker, so he's not just coming around to check out the digs. And I gotta be honest, have you ever been to Goodyear? I don't think a lot of people are going to Goodyear to visit. You're going to play baseball, and that's about it. There's a golf course, I think, not too far from the ballpark. I drove my in-laws there once when we were in spring training. But yeah, it's pretty much baseball and golf. You're not going there for the scenery or the restaurants or anything else. So Rhys Hoskins was there for a reason, and that reason is to be a Cleveland Guardian. I'm kind of surprised it was a minor league deal, but we are, the first weekend in spring training, and nobody had showed interest in him. So I assumed it was going to be a major league deal. So the fact they got him on a minor league deal and so cheap is good, but that also tells me that nobody believes he is what he used to be. And the Guardians, I don't think, believe what he used to be either. But that's okay. He doesn't need to be what he used to be. He can fill a valuable role for them if things go well and there's no commitment, there's no downside to this move. It's all upside, which is the kind of move the Guardians like, the kind of move we like. The question is how much that upside he's going to get to.
Yeah, and I think he's certainly better than Ty France. You can go back and listen to my episode on why that felt like a weird choice. And the thing here with this particular signing is like why did he take the minor league deal? Well, he's getting twice league minimum. I'll say that if he gets promoted, like he's getting a decent amount of money. And I mean decent. I don't mean great. I mean literally the expression decent, not some other take on it. And first base market isn't great. He has struggled with health, and he's had some declining power. But the underlying metrics still show a guy with good bat speed, good hard hit rate. It's a matter of how healthy can he be. And I'll say this for him. He doesn't have terrible splits. Like, this is a guy who can hit from both sides, play an okay for his space. Like, there's a lot of positives here. I know Justin and I have debated him. I mean, we've debated basically everyone in text messages who's been available.
There's not... I don't think there's a player
available.
we didn't talk about, free agent or trade. I think we've literally thrown every name out there possible.
We have in our text messages. I mean, it's just been crazy. So when you look at this, like, why do you take this deal? Because Cleveland has a clear need, very clear need. He has a very good pathway to make this roster. And being a first base only guy into your 30s who has had some wear and tear, like there weren't a lot of great options for him. Especially when your calling card is power and your power has started to slip maybe a little bit. Now, is that due to health? Is it due to age? Here's what I do know. Even though it started to slip, he's been a league average bat the last 2 years. I love the young talent this team has. I think they have potential to have the biggest impact additions come from some of the young players we're going to see debut this year. But you can only have so many of those guys debut at once. You need a little more stability. You need a little bit more of a player you can count on. And Rhys Hoskins has been up in the big league since 2017. Every single year, his WRC plus has been greater than 100. A low of 101, which means 1% better than league average. You could say that about 2 Cleveland hitters last year because Quan ended up falling below that. It was just Manzardo. It was just Jose. Like, that's it. Yeah. So I think it's a smart gamble. I think it's a good gamble. If health blows up in your face, it's not the $12 million you gave Jose a year ago or whatever that, or Carlos a year ago. Yeah. It's 1.5 million. The same thing I said about Nolan Jones. If this Nolan Jones experiment doesn't work, you can move off easily. If Rhys Hoskins doesn't work, you can move off easily.
Yeah, I mean, he had 26 home runs in 2024, and counting stats, are what they are. He wasn't all that valuable. I think the thing that's most shocking, I want to hear more about when they do finally announce after he passes his physical, is the fact that he had a great first half last year. Like, this is a guy who pre-All-Star break, he only had a 768 OPS before the All-Star break last year, but he had a 860 OPS in April, an 876 OPS in May. So he's a guy who had a really hot start, and then he got hurt after June. I think he was banged up in June, playing hurt, and then he missed a lot of time in July, and then he didn't come back till September. And the Brewers, I didn't realize this, he was not on the Brewers postseason roster.
Yeah, it was a big story here.
Yeah, and that's because Andrew Vaughn also was really good too. So that's another piece of it. So yeah, the question is, like, can you recapture what he was doing the first 2 months a year ago? Like, he fits the profile, like you said, of what the Guardians have been kind of inching towards the last year or so, is guys who don't chase out of the zone. They're willing to live with guys who swing and miss in the zone at strikes, but as long as you swing at strikes and you occasionally hit the crap out of one, they're happy with that. He does take his walks. He hits the ball hard. The bat speed's okay. It's not great, but it's fine. Saw an interesting piece on bat speed over the weekend we can throw in there too. So like there is some underlying data there that suggests that things are still pretty solid there. And if you really are worried about health, you can platoon him. Like you said, he doesn't have very tough platoon splits in his career. He does hit lefties better in his career than he does righties overall. So you can.
He hits both.
Yeah, it's a 137 for his career against lefties and a 115 WRC plus against righties. So both of those would be more than satisfactory. I mean, this is a guy who is potentially in your lineup could take you from an F to a C. Like, this is
100%
what you want. Now, yeah, it's no risk. There's no downside. I know, we're not sitting here saying, well, this fixes all the Guardians' problems. They have their hitter now. This is the guy who has cleanup, and this is Mike Napoli 2016 or whatever, Mark Reynolds 2013 through May. Not saying any of that. Just saying this is a potentially a floor raising deal. that has no downside for the Guardians. If he makes the roster out of spring training and he stinks into May, you say, okay, this didn't work. We move on. We figure something else out. But given what the Guardians have not done this offseason for one reason or another, Rhys Hoskins makes a ton of sense for this lineup, and it's all upside. And the upside, gives them, we're not talking about a high ceiling here. We're talking about improving the floor, and the ceiling would be improved by, Chase DeLauter and Kyle Manzardo being even better than a year ago, all that kind of stuff. All right, so we'll talk more about what Rhys Hoskins can and can't do. We'll talk more about how he fits onto the 40-man roster, should he make the team, and the 26-man roster. Where does he fit into playing time? Will he take anybody's at-bats away? That's next. If you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live in person, FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it's going to work. You're going to use a profit boost on any NBA future. You're automatically going to be entered into a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's going to include your flights, your tickets, and the whole experience. How much better could it be? I've already got Cavs. They lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Maybe that's a Finals preview. They're plus 340 to make it to the NBA Finals. As for the Guardians, plus 430 to win the division. So I guess the Rhys Hoskins deal isn't completely official, but FanDuel's not putting a whole lot of stock in Rhys Hoskins tipping the scales in the AL Central just yet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You're going to use your profit boost on an NBA future. Get entered to win a chance to see the NBA Finals in person. Play your game with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Baseball is so back, and you can lock in to baseball season with us by joining the Everyday Club at Locked On. That's going to get you ad-free episodes of this show, and you can join the group chat over on Discord. And for the next week, you can get a free month by using the promo code SPRING, all caps, the word spring, the weather that's not cooperating in Ohio right now. But go to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or find the link in the show notes and use code SPRING when you sign up to get a free month. You can chat with Jeff and I during games, ask questions. You can talk a little smack with the other hosts of the network, whether that's Tigers, White Sox, or any other team you could think of. Everybody's over there hanging out on Discord during the game. So Hoskins last year was pretty much mainly a DH for the Brewers, if I got that right.
He had a thumb injury, so that really hurt his ability. Like, it was
I'm sorry. He played 82 games at first.
He did play
twice.
First. Yeah, but it's like once he hurt his thumb and came back, he was essentially a DH only for them from that point on because of we know what thumb injuries can be, and it can be a lot harder to catch, to do anything.
Great. Yeah, hopefully that's fixed. Hopefully that was, a big source of what was going on last year too. We saw how that impacted Jose a couple years ago. Yeah, I mean, Jose is a unicorn, so injuries affect him a little less than most people. Saris too. Before we get into roster fit for Rhys Hoskins, I wanted to point out that Saris piece we were talking about off the air, where he was kind of talking about where certain data and metrics are predictive of guys who can. It was more he was looking for breakouts, but it's predictive to success for offense.
Yes.
And he was saying, he was saying that the correlation to a good hitter, the best correlation he could find is expected weighted on base average, which is kind of like on base percentage, but it weights all of the outcomes individually. And obviously, a walk is one thing, but a single and a double are weighted higher, and then a triple is weighted higher, and then a home run is rated the highest, and that's how they weight that. And then a hard hit rate was up there, average bat speed was up there, and then hard swing rate. Xwoba last year didn't really love Rhys Hoskins. I'll put it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube to show some of Eno's data. But the barrel rate was good, the exit velocity was good, the hard hit rate's good. Unfortunately, launch angle sweet spot is not, or is squared up doesn't have a high correlation.
We've known that.
Yeah, we have known that. We've talked that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. This seems like a trash stat.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Nobody cares. It doesn't really predict anybody's success. Rhys Hoskins was good in those things, but he hit the ball hard and he barreled it. So those are all still pretty good things. I would imagine, I don't know. Historically, I think he's been okay at first base, but not great.
Depends on the metric. Fangraphs
Yeah, it
definitely
depends on-
hated him most of his career at first base.
Yeah, they don't really have a good defensive first baseman on the roster unless you want to talk CJ Kayfus. But the player who's probably most threatened by Hoskins making the roster is CJ Kayfus. Like, I think that squeezes him off, but that's okay because, you know, having Kayfus, he could work his way into the outfield a little bit if Guan plays center. But you're too left-handed anyway, and you know, you've got Schneemann who can play the outfield. You've got Martinez who can play the outfield. Kayfus probably could. You got DeLauter. You got Brito. They're trying all different places. You've got, you know, Manzardo in there too. So I think Kayfus is the guy who probably starts in AAA if Hoskins makes the team. They have to make a 40-man move if they want to add him at the end of spring training. I mean, there's always a chance, I suppose, that at the end of spring training he doesn't impress them and doesn't make it. But I don't know. I feel like this is a guy you definitely want to make it. Just you got the best terms you could. So I mean, like, they don't have anybody who can go on the IL right now. So right now, to me, it looks like Jonathan Rodriguez would lose his 40-man spot, which is fine by me for Hoskins for 1 year at least. But I think Kayfus is the guy who probably gets squeezed off the roster in terms of 26-man.
Yeah, you know, it's him. And as I said, to me, Brito, this also kind of hurts his opportunities because I think his goal was like as a super utility who could play 3 or 4 different things. But, you know, Kayfus probably isn't on the roster if DeLauter doesn't get hurt. Now, DeLauter gets hurt simply walking upstairs. So, you know, it's one of those things that I'm not, him being on there isn't a surprise. There's not a ton, unfortunately, left for him to work on in AAA. He kind of is who he is. So, but there's worse things than having a guy get some more reps, get some more experience, and develop down there, and then having him come up to big leagues and perform. But I agree with you. I know everyone's super surprised that we agree on something.
I think the real question is, like, how does the lineup pan out? Like, does Hoskins play every day? Because you and I had different opinions on that. Was he play every day? Does he play against lefties? Because, like, against lefties, obviously he makes a ton of sense to have just from a balance perspective. Like, against left-handed pitching, you could have him at DH. You could put Fry at first if he's not, or Fry can catch him and Manzardo can play first against lefties, and you could sit Bo, and you don't have to worry about Hedges. But, you know, he could also DH against righties too, or play first against righties, and you can swap him out for Fry or Manzardo or, you know, whoever else later in the game. So he does fit in the lineup both ways. Like, he does. He's not. I don't think he should take at bats away from Manzardo. Like, I think against righties and lefties, ideally Manzardo plays no matter what this year, because I think he's
agreed,
one of the most important hitters. But you could stack a lineup against lefties now with, you know, Jose hitting third and Hoskins hitting fourth and Fry hitting fifth. You could move Manzardo down to sixth against lefties if you want to protect him but still have him in the lineup. You know, so you add that extra right-handed bat, and, you know, if you want Austin Hedges in the lineup, you technically could, you know, move Manzardo to the bench and use him as a pinch hitter later. You could have all you know, all these righties, which is something they need. You know, Martinez can play one of the outfield spots because, you know, technically he had good platoon splits last year for as much as we believe that isn't repeatable. So, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. There's a very clear fit in the lineup here, no matter which way you slice it. I think he can. I don't know. We disagreed with it at first. We were texting. I think Hoskins, you can play him every day. I don't see why you wouldn't if he's going to be on the roster. I think you want to get the most out of this and see if you can get like a Mike Napoli or a Mark Reynolds type run here.
I didn't even have to say anything, and I've convinced you to my side. No,
got a mind trick over there. Jeez.
And that was always my thought, just because he has pretty clean splits. I think metrically last year, he was better than Manzardo defensively at first base for what it's worth. I don't think either are going to exactly set the world on fire at that position, but, you know, he does.
They might set things on fire. They might set things on fire.
They might, but, like, I think if he makes this team, which I think there's a good chance he does, then I think you're probably set up to have him playing every day. Now, maybe it's not every day. Maybe it's one of those situations where, you know, 80%. He gets, just because of the health. Like, it's not just last year. Like, this is a dude who had an ACL issue, a thumb issue. I'm trying to remember what was the other. I got it up here. Hamstring issue. Like, he has had a lot of health issues. So maybe you don't want him playing all that much, and you do try to balance it out to a degree. But, like, you know, bottom line, he is going to be here. And I am curious because originally David Fry was supposed to be first base and catcher. Like, does this mean maybe they go back to the idea? Like, since they couldn't find a right-handed platoon outfielder, like, do they revisit that idea of a David Fry right field?
Why not?
And then
what's the worst that could happen?
Another injury. But, but in the other side, I agree too with you with Martinez. It's like, I'm curious to see if he can keep it up. Last year, he did a really good job in that platoon, but even in that, he was either, on fire or freezing cold. Like, there's no consistency in his game. Like, when he is destroying lefties, it's like 2 weeks where it doesn't matter if they're Tarek Skubal or if they're Logan Allen. Like, he's going to torch all of them. And then there's stretches where every pitcher looks like Tarek Skubal. So, I'll be curious to see what we see with him this year in terms of maintaining. But in terms of Hoskins in this situation, I think I think let him play 80% of the time.
Let him cook is what Jeff is saying. Rhys Hoskins, let him cook. Well, I'll be curious to see what the comments are from Chris Antonetti. I think most people did receive this pretty well. Like, again, no one's sitting here saying, well, buy your tickets to the World Series now. This is going to fix the Guardians lineup. Again, no one's saying that, I think, but it's a good addition and can't hurt. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Fry in right field. This gives them a little more flexibility to move that around, and you could do a bunch of different things. And I do have one more comment I want to make on signing Rhys Hoskins. Then we have to get into actual games that were played this weekend and things we can overreact to from the first weekend of spring training baseball. We got some college baseball to get into, and a quick note on a draft development for the Guardians coming up next. Workplace deadlines stacking up. There's chaos. Inbox is overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. Sounds like Halloween, like a nightmare, right? And when the pressure's on, you need to find the right hire. It's a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. That includes skills, experience, location, and you're not just hoping the right candidate is going to swipe and stumble across your job. The stat that says it all, in the minute we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, you want to spend less time searching, more time interviewing that perfect candidate who checks all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. That's less stress, less time, more results. We need the right person to cut through the chaos. Show listeners of Locked On Guardians, you're going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it needs and deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about this, about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored job. Hey, the conversation about the Guardians doesn't have to end after the show is over. If you're not really into the group chat thing, maybe you're into some one-on-one texting. Maybe you want information like Rhys Hoskins signed, or the lineup this day in spring training, and what extra minor leaguers are on the roster, or fun stuff we throw out there from time to time, like mailbag questions for the show too. You can head on over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. It's the same price as the Upper Dare Club, just a different way to interact with the show and have a little bit more fun. And as always, make sure you hit the bell on YouTube if we're going to be producing some extra content, whether that's game previews, reactions, regular episodes. Hit the bell on YouTube. You get notified of when those get posted. And if you auto download on all of your favorite audio platforms, you will keep the show in your feed as you're out there shoveling snow at the end of February. I guess it's February. That's still normal, unfortunately. I was just getting so excited about the fact that I could see my grass for the first time since Thanksgiving. But here we are. That's the world we live in. Jeff, my actually biggest takeaway from the Rhys Hoskins signing is you were talking about, the thumb, the ACL, the hamstring. I feel like the training staff, every time the Guardians sign or draft or trade for someone, they're like, all right, great. Order more tape, order more MRIs. Like, I think the training staff is underpaid. That's my takeaway. The Guardians love to overwhelm the training staff. I mean, you think they saw Chase DeLauter's pre-draft report, or Daniel Espino's, or I don't know, Brady Aiken back in the day, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bar, get a drink, and then we're gonna go into work tomorrow and do it all over again.
Well, I will say, even though I predicted Espino would get hurt, his actual
at the time he was fine.
At the time, it was healthy. It's just I just kind of looked at what he did, and I was like, that approach is not gonna hold up. which made my concern there. But it's the same thing with Bazzana too. Like, I don't know, it almost feels like just a jinxing here. Like I talked about that I would have had near identical grades on Bazzana and JJ Weatherholt, but JJ Weatherholt kept getting hurt. A million little injuries. What happened since they've been drafted? Weatherholt's been fine. Bazzana got hurt. So I don't know. Part of me is like, we're cursed. Is kind of where I am almost feeling at this point in time. But maybe I'm just being overly dramatic.
We are not the mistake on the lake for a reason. No, we're not a mistake. Okay, first couple of games this weekend for the Guardians. They hate, like I said, they're undefeated in Cactus League play. We are counting these games, okay? Rob Manfred has done stupider things than count Cactus League games, so let's petition him to count these 3 games for the Guardians. Why not? Anything to overreact to? I would say Travis Bazzana. He swung at a 3-0 pitch on Saturday. He swung at the first pitch at another at bat. He hit 2 balls that were like, I think would have been home runs in like 10 of 30 ballparks. He had a walk, so like that's great. He played second base 2 days in a row. Down for that, getting some looks early on and seeing him get a little aggressive. I did never expect Travis Bazzana to swing a 3-0 pitch, much less spring training. Nolan Jones hit a home run off a 24-year-old who played in AA last year. So there you go. Quan hasn't played in left field yet.
Center
field, surprise, or center field. He hasn't played in center field yet, which was kind of a surprise after that whole talk. But hey, Chase DeLauter played his first game in center field, and he, as far as we know, made it out alive. And I just saw some video from the guys over at Just Baseball, and he looked good running out of the box. Like there was a video of him hitting a line drive that he got out of the box really good. And then give our flowers to Cam Schulke, who was an internet sensation on Saturday. He picked up the win in that game. He came with the bases loaded, got a strikeout of Cam Collier with a 69-mile-an-hour slider, and he bamboozled not only Cam Collier, but Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus with pitching his funky arm slot, but that also went with a normal slot too, which confused everybody. But he was a viral sensation on Saturday on the internet. So good for Cam Schulke.
Yeah, I don't know. As anyone who listens to the show knows, like I do love me a weird arm slot, so I'm always here for Cam Schulke in any way, shape, or form. I'll say this in terms of like overreaction. We don't want to overact to any power or exit velos. Not just Nolan Jones, but like everyone, because the one thing, and we talked about this a year ago, where they are in Arizona seems to increase the hard hit or the exit velos by about 3 to 4 miles an hour due to just, I don't know if it's elevation or air. I don't think it's elevation. Arizona isn't known for its elevation, but it's just a known fact that Arizona, we had a theory about that, and then we ended up got proven. I can't remember where. Maybe it might have even been like a Lance Brzezinski piece, honestly, where it's like, yeah, this is actually something we see. So I would just say that, like, when you're looking at any player, now that means that, typically if someone is out there who really hates on Bazzana, which is a weirdly high percentage of listeners, it's like we could say, well, who cares if it would have been a home run in these parks because he got that extra exit velo. It's like, okay, but the other thing I'll say is too, like, pitchers are slow to start, so like you just don't want
hitters are ahead of the pitchers. Yeah,
hitters are always ahead of the pitchers. So at this point, like, don't get overly negative about any of the pitchers.
Or wait, no, I think it's the other way around because I think it's pitchers are ahead of the hitters because
it just takes pitchers a while to warm up. Like it's their first few games.
Yeah,
like, even though like they're there early, I feel like they need more. They're never at peak when they get in. It takes like a while. That's why it takes so long to ramp up.
Which is why, unless there's like some very alarming signs about velocity out of a pitcher's hand, like also don't overreact to that too. Like I think Joey Cantillo was up a little bit. Logan Allen was about where he should have been, which is not is makes sense because he's trying to get ready for the World Baseball Classic. So that was about right. All right, there's a couple names I wanted to point out from the weekend too from college baseball, but we do have one draft related piece, Jeff. We need to talk about what we haven't had a chance to yet.
Yeah, so with Zach Allen going back to Arizona, that means officially Cleveland is picking 29th. The difference between the 29th pick and the 30th pick is about $80,000 in pool money, especially when you add the overage, because this team always goes into the overage. Say what you want to say about how they spend. They do maximize their money in the draft, no matter what, and not every team does that. I think it's a smart thing to do. We see them do it all the time. And in general, with that, like, you're like, oh, who cares about 80,000? Like, that extra money means things. Like, no matter what you want to say, it's like, especially if you just look at it, like day 3 of the draft, you can get one of the best players available for an extra 80K. Like, that's just having that extra money, having that extra pool is always valuable because of how weird the draft is. There's no way around it. It's like, it is a weird draft. comparative to its peers. So I think, it's worth pointing out. Why don't you mention your guys, and then I was going to mention my guy if we have time. If not, I'll save it for my solo show.
No, we got time. Let's do it. So, I want to point out too, unfortunately, Caden Sorrell from Texas A&M got hurt again. Not on his own. He got spiked, so kind of a freak injury, but hopefully he's okay. But, I do love me some Caden Sorrell so far.
You sent me a lot of things about his dongs.
I sure did. All good here. I saw we had some listeners and some insiders say they were going to see Ryder Helfrich play this weekend. They were impressed by him. Him and Von Lackey from Georgia Tech have been a lot of fun so far, hitting with power. Yeah. I don't know if either of those guys make it to 19, but I would not be opposed to having them as part of the conversation at 19. I think Von Lackey probably won't be there, but Ryder Helfrich maybe. But I like Lackey a little bit more at this stage.
I like Lackey. Can you ever go wrong with a Georgia Tech catcher? Like, that has just been one of those things that...
No. Well, Matt Wieters.
I mean, Wieters was a solid pro. Like, was he over? Like, I mean, a little overhyped, but you go back and look, like, he was good. Like, he was a solid pro. Was he the hype? Yeah. No, he didn't match his hype, but, like...
No.
I mean, I would take a Matt Wieters on this team.
Yeah, I would too. Wanted to point out, too, Kent State took 2 or 3 from Tennessee, so shout out to Kent State baseball. And then Logan Redeman. I watched a lot of the UCLA and TCU game on Friday night, which was, like, the best matchup of the day, if you ask me, because it was 2 really good lineups. UCLA doesn't have a lot of great pitching. I know they have Angel Cervantes, but he's a freshman, and I think he's pitching on Sundays or midweek. But Logan Redeman did pitch for UCLA. TCU didn't have a lot of good pitching, but they have a good lineup. They have Sawyer Stroh-Snyder and they have Chase Brunson. That's a good lineup. And Logan Redeman had 10 strikeouts in that game. He's a San Diego State transfer to UCLA. He's like 6'2". He's not that big. He's got like a really low delivery, but he's really online. He throws a lot of strikes. He's 92, 94. Good induced vertical break on the fastball. There's a lot of fun traits there. So I'm watching Logan Redeman as one of those college pitchers, maybe like, late day one.
Yeah, one of the guys I've been following is Ace Rhys of Mississippi State. He had another strong weekend. They're facing Delaware. What stood out to me about Delaware and just distracted me as I was looking for it is Delaware's got some great names. They have Sal Mineo, which, if you're thinking about names, like that was an actor who was murdered, who was in a lot of Rebel Without a Cause and Exodus were his big films. And they have someone here who looks like Lieutenant Cockrell. So I just want to go out and say in general, Delaware is a team to watch for our all name teams. I got to spend some more time on Delaware baseball between Sal Mineo and Lieutenant Cockrell. But again, Ace Rhys, I know some people aren't as high on him. I mean, he's a first round talent across the board, but he's, he had a double in the first game of this series. He's playing well. And I believe the Aiden Teal, who's playing center field, isn't that Kyle Teal's brother over at Mississippi State as well? Who,
yeah, sure is.
He's draft eligible this year.
Yep, Aiden Teal's draft eligible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's some fun guys, but Ace Rhys is a guy I've liked, and he had good data in the opening weekend. So good data. I haven't checked in on all of his games from this past week. And like I said, I'm going to spend some more time on Delaware because I'm just loving their name game.
And then the Blue Hens. I mean, that's a fun name too. The Blue Hens. Like that. All right. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Guardians so you get all the latest episodes. If you've never missed an episode, you make sure the Everydayer Club is where you want to be. Get Locked On Guardians ad-free, members-only Discord access, as we talked about, and so much more. Head to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com to join the club. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what the future holds for the Guardians at first base now that Rhys Hoskins is here. There's Kyle Manzardo, there's CJ Kayfus, David Fry, Ralphie Velasquez. So many things to talk about at first base for the Guardians. Is it finally a position they have found something on? We'll talk about that tomorrow.
It is a position they seem to be doing better at. That is for sure. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, rate and review, download daily, and go Guardians, go.